Hello. Hello. Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Halo, selamat siang Pak Najib. Isi.
Tes. Halo Bu Titik.
Ya, apa kabar? Oh, moderator ya?
Iya, Bu.
Oke. Sepertinya di sini semua bisa bahasa Indonesia loh. Tapi harus pakai bahasa Inggris.
Biar nanti di YouTube-nya bagus, Bu. Ini tapi udah live, Bu.
Oke. Oke. Ya.
Okay. Thank you for everyone who has gathered today for our afternoon sessions. Before we start, let me introduce myself. My name is Tom Kunchoro, and I'm going to be your moderator for today. We have a very esteemed list of speakers that they are going to present their papers today. And the topic is social sciences and power. It's about how social science not only see power, but also perpetuate and in a way transform power itself. So since we've already passed our scheduled time, I think it's better to start with our first speaker. Before we do that, let me introduce our first speaker. Our first speaker is Ms. Astri Rafikasari from Defense Diplomacy Department, Faculty of Defense Strategy from the Indonesian Defense University. The topic is about the securitizations of COVID-19 outbreak in Indonesia, especially how the government as the main actor see the outbreak of COVID and the securitization process that followed. To Ms. Astri, the floor is yours. You can start your presentations.
Hello. Before that, I'm already sent my recording presentation. Did you receive it, or I will play it in myself by myself?
Okay, host, do you have the presentation
Sorry.
ready? The video
Yeah.
presentation?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. So while we're waiting for the video to play, can you tell us a little bit about your paper? Just just a taste so that we know we can get a little bit interest about the presentation. Just in a couple of sentences, how is it interesting?
Unmute your unmute your microphone.
You're still
please.
muted.
Yeah.
Miss Astrid, you're okay.
Okay, thank you very much for this time. My name is Astria Pasari for Defense Diplomacy Department, and today my presentation is all about the COVID-19, the securitization of the COVID-19 outbreak in Indonesia. And my presentation is overall is about we know that today COVID-19 outbreak is become a global threat, not only in China, not only in Indonesia, but become the global threat that the government of the country must be done policies to dealing with the pandemic. And from the I want to talk about how the government make a securitization about these threats, especially in Indonesia. And we know that in Indonesia, this pandemic for the first time is not become a serious or important threat because we know that the government and social or community is not aware about the dangers of this pandemic. And after the COVID or pandemic,
the video is ready.
Okay.
Perhaps
Okay,
just
thank
start
you.
the videos, and then we can discuss a bit more about your interesting topic later after the
Okay,
video.
thank you very much.
Host,
I think the video
there is no
yeah.
sound. Yeah. Can you check that you share the sound as well? Just
Yes.
Yeah, I mean like the whole.
And it's or maybe I will present it my video myself by myself.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
My name is Astria Fikasari. I'm from Defense Diplomacy Department of Indonesian Defense University.
Thank you very much.
A researcher in Center for Aerospace Policy Studies. Today, in the Symposium on Social Science, I want a presentation about the securitization of COVID-19 outbreak in Indonesia. This is my outline. First, about the background. Second, about the literature review. Third, about the COVID-19 outbreak in Indonesia. And the fourth, about the securitization of the COVID-19 outbreak in Indonesia. And the fifth, about the conclusion. This is the background about what is the coronavirus. We know that the coronavirus are a family of viruses that includes the common cold, SARS, and MERS. And the most recent COVID-19 outbreak involved a new strain that previously had not been identified in humans. And today, the coronavirus is to be the global issue as a threat to the all around the world. This is the coronavirus symptom about the pneumonia, pallidum, breathless, and cold, fever, and chest pain. And this very risk factor to the old generation and have a disease from our. And this is the chronology of the COVID-19 outbreak. We know that the first COVID-19 found in Wuhan, China, and spread out very fast to all around the world, and it become a global issue. It's very global issue, and it's very dangerous and very important to combating this pandemic. And in Indonesia, the COVID-19 outbreak, the first COVID-19 outbreak found in Depok. And in the 3 months or all the last 5 months, it's very spread. It's very fastly to spread to all over the Indonesia region. From this presentation, I'm using a public policy theory. Thomas Erdős defined the public policy is whatever the government chooses to do or not to do. We know that this public policy can be analyzed using the analysis of the securitization to see the construction of the policies related to the factor that support or consideration of the policy formulated and implemented both based the national and international factors. After that, I'm using a securitization by Barry Buzan. We know that Buzan is defining the security as a pursuit of freedom from threats. We know that which can be interpreted as a freedom from threats and the ability of the state and society to the maintaining their identity and integrity from the change in the power that result from their enemies. And about the securitization, defined as the process of the turning a problem issues into a threat, which is carried out by the actor of the states or government and the community as itself. We know that in the COVID-19 outbreak, we can use this problem into a threat, a human threat. And from the Barry Buzan perspective, there are 5 sectors or 5 issues can be a threat. First, about the military threat, economic threat, political threat, social sector, and environmental threat. And furthermore, based on the conception of the Buzan securitization, how is the Indonesian government as a security actor looking at the case of the COVID-19 outbreak, especially in Indonesia? After that, we know that this COVID-19 issue, COVID-19 problem is very related to our national interests, of Indonesia. Indonesian national interest is first maintaining state sovereignty, territorial integrity, and safety of the nation. And our national objective is written in opening of the 1945 Constitution of the Republic of Indonesia on the 4th paragraph. First, about the protect the entire Indonesian nation and all Indonesian blood seed, and improve people welfare, enlighten the life of nation, and participate in the world order based on independence, economic peace, and social justice. And we know that today's is COVID-19 outbreaks to be a current global threat that threatens Indonesian national interests and goals. And we know that the coronavirus outbreaks is make an impact, the important impact to the all Indonesian sector, especially in economic sector, healthy sector, and social sector. And that's why that the government must make a policy based on the impact that get from the coronavirus outbreak. And from the coronavirus outbreak, we know that the government response on COVID-19 outbreak in Indonesia is based on the President of the Republic of Indonesia regarding the travel to mainland China, that what must be done by government to protect our national security, human security, our citizens. First, about all direct flight to and from mainland China have been temporarily suspended, and all migrants who arrive from mainland China and have been there before 14 days are temporarily not permitted to enter and transit Indonesia. And the policy of granting visa-free and on-arrival visa facilities for Chinese nationals residing in mainland China has been temporarily suspended, and Indonesian citizens have temporarily not traveled to mainland. After that, we know that there are several policies that government made that reflect about the securitization, the COVID-19 issues in Indonesia. First, that Indonesia make a policy to returning Indonesian citizens in Wuhan to be isolated in the Natuna Island. And the second, about the establishment of task force for the acceleration of handling COVID-19. We know that BNPB is the coordinator, and it's based on the Republic of Indonesia President Decree number 7 of 2020, and the third about the prohibition of travel abroad, especially to countries that are COVID-19 has contracted, and the fourth about the self-isolation, 14 days, and fifth about the work from home, school from home, and housecoming is prohibited. We know that dilarang mudik. And the sixth, economic policy, we know that subsidy, BLT, and etc. And government do development the COVID-19 application. You must download it to know about the development spread of the COVID-19 in Indonesia. This application, the name application is Peduli Lindungi. And seven, government do a rapid test, COVID-19 specialty hospital. We know that the Wisma Atlet now become a hospital, special hospital for COVID-19 and we know that Indonesia make international cooperation, defense diplomacy with China, and cooperation with South Korea. Cooperation about related to the rapid test kit and medicine. After that, we know that there are large-scale social limitation policy, or we call it the SBB, in several major cities in Indonesia, like Jakarta, West Java, and East Java. And now the recent policy that's still dilemma in civil society is about the new normal policy. Okay. After that, based on the policies made by the government, we know that COVID-19 can be seen as a threat that threatens the safety of Indonesian citizens today. And the securitization process was undertaken by the central government to disseminate information about the dangers of the COVID-19 and about how to avoid COVID-19. And however, the securitization carried out by the Indonesian government is considered late because it's all have been implemented since the beginning various policies to prevent the spread of COVID-19. But the government is still observe development, and the community is not awareness about the danger of the COVID-19. And we know that before that we have feel that COVID-19 will not develop in the country with a tropical climate. It's very ironic in Indonesia. And according to the Busan, securitization is carried out when the security actors and the public as object of the threat have really felt threatened. And this has finally happened in Indonesia. We know that the increasing number of deaths in infected in Indonesia is very highly today. And the policies that have been carried out by Indonesian government are basically carried out to prevent the spread of the COVID-19 outbreak from becoming more widespread and cure citizens who are already positive to COVID-19. And in the case of the COVID-19, securitization was more likely to be encouraged by the public. We know that the community has become increasingly influenced by the government, and which is considered slow in dealing with the COVID-19. And we know that society, in this case, as a reverent object. We know that the civil society in Indonesia is certainly feel anxious because the distribution of the COVID-19 is predicted to be far from the world top, and the number of cases is continue increase in Indonesia. This condition is make the community triggers the public to pressure the government to be making in the firm policies, and the community also tend to pressure the government to do a lockdown, like in Wuhan, China, or like in Philippines, Vietnam, and etc. And we know that the securitization process improve when there were a number of state officials were infected with the COVID-19, such as the Ministry of Transportation, Bogor Mayor, and we know that the Mayor of Banjarbaru, deep condolences to him. And the increased death toll from COVID-19, especially among medical staff, is likely to add the turmoil of the threat of the spread and the danger of the COVID-19. And this certainly helped trigger the community and the government to become increasingly panic over the spread of the coronavirus in Indonesia. So that before we have a social distancing, and now becoming physical distancing, and work from home, and worship at home, study at home, and all Indonesian citizens are required to wear masks. And this condition is created anxiety in the community and created opinion from the public to pressure the government to make a lockdown. So there is a two choice, government by the community, lockdown or no lockdown. Why we must lockdown and why we don't do lockdown. And based on the WHO, we know that However, basically, whether in a lockdown policy or not lockdown policy, the government must done first about the immediately activating the highest level of national response management protocol, prioritizing active and comprehensive case finding and immediate testing and isolation, fully educate the general public about the seriousness of the COVID-19, immediately expand surveillance to detect COVID-19 transmission chains. It be the more that this is how the technology is important to tracking the transmission, the COVID-19 outbreak, like in South Korea. And the fact about the conduct a multi-sector scenario. There we have to cooperation and coordination to other sector like business and private and social. This coordination between the stakeholder is very important because one aspect will affect to other, and it's very important to make a stakeholder management, but in one coordinated. So it will be one gate policy, but it's very coordinated. After that, from my perspective and from my presentation, I want to make a conclusion. First, about based on the above discussion, the Indonesian government response to the COVID-19 pandemic is seen as being too late, is responding quickly to the spread of COVID-19 in Indonesia. And because we know that the government is tended to focus on economic impact rather than the healthy impact. And we know that COVID-19 securitization was triggered by the community as a reference object because so many cases, so many COVID-19 inquests is make the triggers to the public, to the community to pressure the government to be firm in making policies. The community also tends to pressure the government to do a lockdown. And through this securitization perspective, policies formulated by the government will be implemented optimally based on the objectives to be achieved, and the government policy that have been formulated based on the principle of the securitization must also be carried out responsible by its citizens. And we know that government policies without civil society support will not optimally carried out. And vice versa, in making government policies must also pay attention to aspect of securitization of its civil society. Okay, and last, let's stay healthy, stay hopeful, stay safe, and let's together we fight coronavirus. Thank you very much for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Ms. Asri. Very interesting expositions about the government's attempt to securitize COVID-19, although it was deemed too little too late, because victim has already fallen by the time the government start to securitize seriously. And when the case is actually at its highest point, we start to be a bit more lenient with the new normal policy. Very interesting indeed. And you're going to stay with us for the questions time, would you, Ms. Asri? Okay, thank you. Okay, next, our next speaker is from Universitas Padjadjaran, Bandung, the most excellent Rinda Aunilah Sirait Esos MIKOM, Reni Susanti, Saputra Rantona, Ridma Meltareza, and Ria Kurniawan. The topic is the practice of advocacy journalism by the National News Agency, especially talk about the LKBN Antara in West Nusa Tenggara or Nusa Tenggara Barat regarding the case of the building or the developing of the cable car plant in the Mount Rinjani tourism area. To the team from Universitas Padjadjaran, the floor is yours. You have 15 minutes to present your case. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for the opportunity. I want to present our research. This is a collaborative research between several universities. Actually, I'm the one who come from Padjadjaran University, and the other is from UIN Sunan Gunung Jati, Indonesia, Universitas Komputer Indonesia, Osbert Club Indonesia is a kind of discussion club in Bandung, and Universitas Islam 45 Indonesia from Bekasi. Our research is advocacy journalism by the National News Agency. It's a single case study of LKBN Antara, the West Nusa Tenggara Bureau or NTB Bureau, in reporting the cable car development plan on Mount Rinjani. LKBN Antara, as we know, is the Indonesian National News Agency and usually become our government public communication strategy to inform what happened in Indonesia and to make a good image of Indonesia. But in this situation, we found that something interesting happened in NTB Bureau. There's an advocacy journalism practice that happened, and it against local government and national government plan in build a cable car in Mount Rinjani. LKBN Antara, the West Nusa Tenggara or NTB Bureau has an important role in developing public discussion related to the government plan to build a cable car in Mount Rinjani. The development of cable car in Mount Rinjani is part of the interest of our national tourism plan. In 2016, the plan has been developed and it's politicized by the local politician, especially in the contestancy of pemilihan gubernur or the governor election as the politic commodity. And the issue has been dulled when 2018, the elected governor, Zulkifli Mansyah, is elected. And suddenly, in January 2020, it's about mid-January 2020, this discourse re-emerged by the governor. He posted in his social media that he already met an investor from China who will build the cable car to Mount Rinjani. And the interesting is the target of the development was complete before the 2021 MotoGP event. The National News Agency, LKBN Antara Bureau, was quite insistent in reporting this discourse. Actually, before 2020, in 3 October 2019, LKBN Antara is the first media who re-emerged these issues when it already silent in 2018. One person that became the key factor is a person named Riza Fahriza. He's the leader of LKBN Antara NTB Bureau. He became the figure behind the LKBN Antara NTB Bureau who support the rejection for the cable car construction because of his position as a head of LKBN Antara in NTB Bureau. This article will discuss the question of how the advocacy journalism practice of LKBN Antara Bureau in NTB in reporting the plan to build a cable car on Mount Rinjani. We will review our result in three theory and concept. The first is social responsibility theory that brought out by Siebert, Peterson, and Schramm. And the second one is the element of journalism from Bill Kovac and Tom Rosenstiel. And the third one about the concept of advocacy journalism. This is a case study research involving several informants, such as the journalists from LKBN Antara NTB Bureau, the representatives of local communities and traditional leaders surround the Mount Rinjani, and the nature conservationist activist group in NTB. Data collection was carried out through the observation of journalism work, in-depth interview with the informants, and the study that related to the literature that related. The result of the research will be elaborated by those three theories and concepts. This is the result. The issue of cable car development plan on Mount Rinjani has been brought up by LKBN Antara. Antara is the first media who re-emerged these issues after it's been silent since 2018. And in October the 3rd, 2019, LKBN Antara published a news that titled Rencana Pembangunan Kereta Gantung in Rinjani memunculkan kekhawatiran, or the planning of build a cable car in Rinjani raises concerns. And then there are several news that published by Antara after the meeting of governor and the investor. It become more and more. LKBN Antara make two strategies. The first one by the reportage or the news making process. They using the news angle selection. We found out that there are 15 straight news that has already published in antaramataran.com. 3 of the news are pros, 4 of it neutral, and 6 of it contra. So the majority of the news are cons. And the second one is sources. LKBN Antara using the selective sources to make sure that their perspective in contrary the building plan is getting stronger by 15 sources, which is 13 people trail, 2 of it is people trail. And from the 13 sources, which is people trail, there are 2% who's pros, 4 of it neutral, and 7 of it cons. And then the third one is the news intensity. Between January until February, in the mid-February, there are, like I said, 13 straight news. And for a kind of news agency, it's quite a lot. And the second movement, the second strategy is the grassroots activities. The grassroots activities that have been held by the journalists of LKBN Antara NTB Bureau is the local community leaders discussion. And the second one, the nature conservation activist discussion. And the third one, using the philosophy of Bayan community. In NTB, Bayan community is a specific Islamic beliefs that known as Islam Tiga Waktu. Those activities, behind those activities, there is Riza Fahriza's role as kind of director and make it happen. So we believe that the LKBN Antara Bureau using the advocacy journalism concept to make sure that there is a kind of contrary cable car development plan on Mount Rinjani as the first criticism into the government plan. This is the result. How can it happen? It's happened because there is a freedom of authority. The informant, our key informant, Riza Fahriza, knowledge having a special agenda in reporting plans to construct a cable car on Mount Rinjani. His position as the head of LKBN Antara NTB Bureau made it easier for the alignment to appear in the news. The freedom of authority, another freedom of authority is shown by the philosophy of Mount Rinjani as a mother to the people of Lombok is a community value that is held by Fahriza in building his partisan motive in this case. Effort to avoiding recurring failures in the management of the Puncak West Java area, so the experience in West Java area, are one of the objectives that is citing reporting that Fahriza don't want the case of Puncak West Java also happen in Mount Rinjani. Both aspects are the elaboration of the social responsibility theory that developed by Siebert Peterson and Schramm. In this alignment, publication is also related to Fahriza's aim to reveal as much information as possible from the publication of policies of the NTB provincial government. Hopefully, according to him, will be open up the opportunity to the community to have alternative points of view other than those represented by the government. So we saw it as the journalist's responsibility. And the second one, how it could happen because of the community needs. As a national news agency, Fahriza realized that national news agencies are the successor of the government's work. However, in the issue of the Rinjani cable car, Fahriza has a principle that he does for the sake of the environment, society, and order to be maintained. This is, if we relate it to the elements of journalism, it's related to the first royalty of journalism is to the citizen. So I think the community needs become the priority, his priority, KBN Antara's priority, and it become the strongest motive to make state the contra position to the government plan. The practice of advocacy journalism. Fahriza used to approach, like I said before.
You have 5 more minutes.
Okay, thank you. That using reportage or report making process and the local community discussion. In this situation, we see that what Fahriza have done is he want to prioritize journalistic principles such as cover both sides. He ordered his journalists to review Rinjani from various angles, although at the end the majority of the angle is cons. Fahriza motive for partially through the reporting of the website antaramataram.com is by the principle of the press should help the presentation and clarification of the goals and values of society, which is the part of the concept of free and responsible press. That's our presentation. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Ms. Linda Sirait and Sim. It's interesting how the press can serve as the pillar of democracy. This is a very excellent research that shows just how important it is for the press to remain neutral and cover both sides, even though they're on the government's payroll. Very interesting. Okay. Next up, we'll have speaker from Universitas Pembangunan Nasional Jakarta. And Mr. Adirio Arianto from Universitas Pembangunan Nasional Veteran Jakarta from the Department of International Relations, and Ms. Gesti Anggraini, who's a researcher at the Department of International Relations from the Universitas Satya Negara Indonesia. The presentation is about Manunggalism. It's a traditional perspective of idea and used to explain the world order in the era of Manunggal in the 21st century, especially the case of the cooperations between Indonesia and China, especially by, how there are same values between the two countries that serve in their cooperations. To Ms. Adi and Tim, the floor is yours. You can start your presentation. You have 15 minutes.
Yes, moderator, thank you very much. Does my video it's okay or just audio?
It says here that your bandwidth is low, so we cannot see any video, just
Oh,
your
yes,
voice.
okay.
Okay, now we can.
Well, does my screen is okay?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
You can proceed.
Okay. Sorry. I make it line. Yes. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And Good afternoon, the honorable, the panelists, and also the hosting. I said thank you very much for the first, because today with my co-author, present my idea and
We can't really hear you, sir. It's hello. We can't really hear you. I think that's a problem with the network.
The
I think that's a problem with Mr. Adi's network. The next speaker, Ibu Siti Mutia, is it okay if you? I think he got disconnected, Mr. Adi. Because the network problem, he got disconnected. Okay, he's here. Okay, Mr. Adi, can you hear me? Hello, Mr. Adi.
Bisa in the chat, Mas.
Any? Hello, Mr. Adi, can you turn on your microphone and try to... Your microphone is still muted.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Just present without
can proceed,
your
Yes.
yeah, PPT.
This okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
It's much better now. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you very much for the host and all the presenter, actually distinguished panelists. Today, I am Adiria Arianto with my co-author, Gesti Anggraini, is one to presenting about our idea, and with the topic is Manungalism and the world order in the year of Manunggal, 21st century. The role of Indonesia-China cultural cooperation in building the future of world security architectures by promoting the value of mutual cooperation, gotong royong, unity, and harmony. Well, introduction. We all know that Professor Su Liping, in his book about the say that Indonesia and China has similar social culture characterized. Indonesia has diversity of culture characterized by the value of Pancasila, while in China based on Taoism. So the culture concept of the two countries are the same in several ways. In China, we all know about the Yin and Yang philosophy, and Indonesia we all know about the Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, and Gotong Royong, and etc. Of course, this is very important to understand how is the two countries are going to relate about their cultures. And then I want to explain about the diversity of cultures in understanding the terminology. First, Pancasila, or the Big Five of Indonesia, means that the way of life of the Indonesian society, while in China, Taoism means a philosophical tradition of the China origin, which emphasizes living in harmony. So the cultural concept of the two nations are the same in several ways. Second, China's term about harmonious in diversity with the Indonesian term Bhinneka Tunggal Ika. Both of them are to guide harmonious in Indonesian deeper term, namely kerukunan, and later became kerukunan dunia, or world harmony in China terms. Another thing that the Chinese term about mutual assistance and friendship has the same meaning as gotong royong in Indonesia. In paradigm philosophy of Manungalism, gotong royong is one of the value kemanunggalan dunia, include kesatuan or unity and kerukunan harmony. Yeah. Manunggalism formulated by several words consists of manungsa, it means manusia, manut taat, tunggal kesatuan, and akal pikiran. So Manunggalism is a paradigm or a way of seeing the world which emphasizes the value of gotong royong, kesatuan, and kerukunan dunia. Well, the introduction to paradigm of Manunggalism philosophy. Actually, in 2016, I have been speaking about the mastermind of Manunggalism philosophy at the 7th National Convention of the Indonesian International Relations, IHI, and today, in 2020, at the World Symposium of Social Science 2020, Rethinking the Social World in 21st Century. So we continue to speak about the spread of Manunggalism philosophy to the international world by establishing Manunggalism as the Mazhab Indonesia or the School of Indonesia in the field of international relations studies. Manunggalism could be seen as a paradigm, perspective, and as a theoretical framework in understanding the international relation and the interworld relation. So as the father of Manunggalism and Indonesian philosopher, I re-emphasize that sistem dunia adalah gotong royong, or world system is gotong royong. This is my emphasis about what is the paradigm Manunggalism or the philosophy. And then next is, what is the era of Manunggal 21st century according to my topic today? So with understanding the system dunia adalah gotong royong or world system is gotong royong, naturally, China and Indonesia, as the biggest ASEAN country, are now carrying out cultural cooperation, promoting value kemanunggalan dunia. Of course, to welcome the era of Manunggal 21st century, that is an era where the world is built by the value of gotong royong, kesatuan, and kerukunan that reflect the achievement of the common interest in the principle of friendship, kindship, and justice that are distributable throughout the world, again, or as a mark of the end of globalization era as the sub-era of Renaissance. So to achieve this situation, it became an important agenda for the two countries, for the China and Indonesia, in responding to various possible change in the world order, the way to build the future of world security architecture. So, in one hand, China wants to gain world harmony, according to their terminology, and Indonesia wants to gain kerukunan antarbangsa, or kerukunan dunia, according to Manunggalism terminology. So, but to achieve that situation in world order, Indonesia has a challenge in cultural relation. This is my slide. There are three about some challenges faced by the two countries. The first is, that the unbalanced information due to the unbalanced flow of the news coming from the West to Indonesia and from China to Indonesia and also vice versa. So we know that the United States and China in global level is always contradicting one another. So this situation make the flow of information in the world not only from the China to Indonesia, but also from Indonesia to China is getting a very different quality. So this is one of the challenges which faced by the two countries. The second is the lack of high-level dialogue between the two countries. And the third, the lack of understanding between the two countries regarding the historical role root of the culture as the basis of foreign policy. We all know that China and Indonesia is one of the country or two of the country from all the country in Asia that is colonialized by the European countries. So it is very important to build the story and to remember the story, how to go the future in the future. So I think that Manungalism could support this situation. And then we flashback about the glimpse into the past that the beginning of the first government of the Republic of Indonesia, know that President Sukarno has attempted to contribute the important talk regarding the important relation between the two countries along Russia. We all know that is a policy Jakarta picking Moscow as keys that is stabilized by the Sukarno. And then this policy was an important part of advancing rational between Indonesia and China. Yes, and also history has proven that the Asian African Conference cannot separate from the significant role played by the two countries, Indonesia and China. This was supported by the statement of the first Indonesian president in his opening speech, namely the same desire to maintain and strengthening the peace. Then the Chinese Prime Minister Zhou Enlai at the time also emphasized that China representative came to seek unity of understanding rather than dispute, demand unity in diversity, and consistent to the 5 principles of peaceful, that is respecting regional sovereignty and integrity, not attacking each other, not mutually intervention in domestic affairs, equality and mutual benefit, and peaceful coexistence. Well, this photo, you know, this President Sukarno, this is the first president of Indonesia, and his wife, Mrs. Dewi, and the Prime Minister of the China, Zhou Enlai. Yes, by that introduction, so I think that the view of the two leaders, Zhou Enlai and Sukarno, can be said to be in accordance with the tradition of the value of Manungalism, which prioritized gotong royong, kesatuan, and kerukunan in Asia. However, this relation was cut off for 22 years since Suharto led Indonesia. As a result, the cooperation between the two countries came to halt. Hence, by encouraging the talk of Manungalism, so I am with my co-author over a research question that's under the paradigm of Manungalism. How does the role of the Indonesian-China cultural cooperation in building the future of world security architecture in the era of Manunggal 21st century? Yeah, systematical. This I want to explain in 5 focus analysis. The first is I will explain about Indonesian-China first high-level meeting or summit in 2015. The second is I want to explain about the evolution of Indonesian-China relation, the evolution of Indonesian and China relation, and the third is Indonesian-China cooperative relation, multi-sectors, not only in culture, but also in different sectors. And the fourth is Indonesian-China common interests. And finally, I want to explain about Indonesian-China bilateralism in building the world future architectures. Well, the theoretical framework, I used the terminology from the Joseph Nye has emphasized that culture is one of the important pursuits of the national interests.
You have 5 more minutes.
State that the source of power by countries post-World War II doesn't only depend on military power, but another source that is culture and habit skeletons of power. So by this theoretical framework, China is is a country that has a cultural strong in the world, and China use cultural power to achieve their national interests and make the culture to become a soft power instrument to regional and global interests. And then methodology, I use the qualitative research based on Bogdan and Taylor's, and the research studies also use descriptive analytical research to analyze cultural context of the Indonesian and China relation. Yes, I want to go to the result of my research. First, I want to talk about Indonesian-China First High-Level Meeting Summit 2015. We all know that in 2015, the Prime Minister of the People Republic of China, Li Yandong, and the Indonesian Coordinating Minister for Human Empowering and Culture, that is Puan Maharani. Yeah, the first time is held about the people-to-people exchange. Yes, this eventually became the basic for people-to-people relation between China and Indonesia, since the policy of Belt and Road Initiative was support or built in China. So what happened when the BRI came to the woods and was supporting by China? That is a different, that's before the BRI. What framework for Indonesia to creating the cooperation in culture? That is consists of three. Yeah? According to the framework of China ASEAN Community of the Common Destiny, and China and its neighboring community of common destiny, and human community of common destiny. But when the BRI came to the woods, so what happened after that? That's China continued to grow their relation to Indonesian about cultural. So we understand that China has promoted the Confucius Institute to spreading their diaspora, and they're thinking about the cultures. And then the second, I want to talk about the evolution of Indonesian and China relations. You know that Indonesia and China have similar revision actually about the years in 2015 and until 2020. So China's dream, it can going together with Indonesia vision, that is Indonesia yang mandiri, maju, adil, dan makmur. In this sequence, you'll see that the evolution of Indonesia and China relations from the Sukarno, Suharto, Habibie, and post-reform Haji Abdul Rahman Wahid, Megawati, Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono, and the next is Joko Widodo. So this is very important that the evolution of the two relationship of the cultures is improved and growth years to years. And it is very important because the two countries has the same idea to building the world security architecture in the futures. Yeah. Next, we are going to talk about China, Indonesia and China cooperative relation, multi-sector after the BRI and Poros Maritim Dunia is come to the world. Now that is five, that is political relation, defense relation, security relation, economic relation. The five was my focus today is social cultural relation. As I explained before, that's China and Indonesia is building their cultural relation based on the framework of the ASEAN community. Yeah, that is common destiny, neighboring community, and human community of common destiny. And then this is the two last of my slide. Indonesian-China common interests. We know that China has a philosophy about military that is supported by the Sun Tzu strategic thinking that is very important, but the Indonesian perspective, especially from the Vice Minister of Defense of the Republic of Indonesia at the time, give appreciation to the Sun Tzu philosophy, because Sun Tzu philosophy can not only can be applied from military but also from social and cultural contexts. And China and Indonesia are large developing countries in Asia and have broad common interests at the bilateral, multilateral, and international level. Yeah, the two sides have carried out good cooperation in the field of defense, maritime, fire, space, and culture, and have maintained close coordination and cooperation with international regions such as World Bank, G20, APEC, ASEAN+1, and ASEAN+3. So this is the common interest between Indonesia and China in building their cultural relation in the future and today. Yeah, and this is, some situation that is so that Indonesia and China have a bilateral cooperation. Yeah, you know that in 2015, the invitation of President Xi Jinping, President Joko Widodo paid a state visit to China and exchanged deeper and broader view on bilateral relations, and international issue finally reached a deep of comprehensive understanding. One of the former of the chief of Badan Intelijen Negara, this Mr. Hendro Priyono, said that Indonesia is the largest archipelagic country in the world. So putting the forward the strategic target to become a strong big ocean country in the world is very much in line with China plan for regional interests. And also, Hendro Priyono emphasized that this common interest to develop a Belt and Road Initiative and Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank policy, and this will bring mutual prosperity to their countries. And Hasim Jalal also pursued that the two project about the World Maritime Access from Indonesia and the Belt and Road Initiative from the China is very important to synergize the idea of the two countries. And then Indonesia and China could build regulation about the World Maritime Access and Belt and Road Initiative, which is benefiting as a structural proof in increasing powers for this Asia. So finally, regarding international issue, the President of Joko Widodo and the President Xi Jinping agreed to build a new world order at the more balance. This is my final slide. Yeah. We look first the role of Indonesia-China cultural cooperation in building the future of world security architecture in the era of Manunggal. How is that? There is a 5-point that I want to emphasize today. That's in principle, the current bilateral relations between Indonesia and China have strengthened from previous time until today. So there are three factors that Indonesia and China can build a world security architecture. That is, first is to promote the regional interests according to the value of Manunggalism, a leading role for the strategic trust. The second is to become an actor of spreading of cultures. And the fourth is to send a share of responsibility in regional and global contexts. And five is to support the value of Manunggalan Dunia to become the basis of two countries in building the world security architectures. And this is the conclusion. So now in the year of Manunggal, we have reason to believe that what Indonesia and China dream about the building world security architectures by promoting the value of gotong royong, kesatuan, and kerukunan is that all nations enjoy world peace, prosperity, and harmony together. So friends, yeah, that is for me. Say thank you very much for the host, and I give you the host to continue. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Adi and Tim. It's a very philosophical take on the international politics, a refreshing take, because it's not always about interest, it's not always about power, sometimes it's also about values, and cultural values is two things that bind the countries together, because both countries are very cultural in their everyday political and everyday life. Thank you once more to Mr. Adi for the excellent presentation.
You're welcome.
Next up is Ms. Siti Mutia Setiawati from the Department of International Relations from Universitas Gadjah Mada, and Felis Valeria Thessalonica, a student of International Undergraduate Program for the Department of International Relations. Now this speaker is a bit special for me because the same team is a former teacher back when I was a student and a former student back when I was a TA in the Department of International Relations UGM. And they're in the same team, so it's okay.
Thank you very much. Yeah, okay.
Ms. Titi going to talk about the new international order in pandemic era, on how the COVID-19 outbreak affect not only Indonesia as a country, but also the global order, how it changes from bipolar to unipolar to multipolar. And the process of the pandemic actually speed up the process. And we're going to learn firsthand from one of our expert speakers today. So to Ms. Siti Mutia Setiawati and Tim, the floor is yours. You have 15 minutes to present your paper. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mas Kuntoro. Yes, I always remember your face, but suddenly I forgot your name, and then this name remind me that you were at that time you were very excellent student. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for the time, everyone. Good morning, good evening, and assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Uh, Today, yes, I will present my paper about the new approaches of international relation during the pandemic era. My presentation is on my experiences during I was student in 1917. All of you, I'm sure you were not yet at that time, and I always pay attention to the development of the word. Yeah, the first time when I took international relation course, the lecturer introduced that the word always dominated by the superpower. When I was a student, and I told you in 1979, at that time the word was dominated by bipolar. That is the situation described as a competition between two superpower. There were United States of America and its alliance, and Soviet Union and its alliance. Yeah. Okay, everyone, just fasten your seatbelt and adjust your seat into upright position and ready to follow my presentation. Thank you. And let me share my PowerPoint here and be patient to do it. Yeah. Okay. Hang on in a minute. Can you see my presentation now? Hello, Mas Kuntoro?
Hello? Yeah?
Can you see my presentation now?
No, it's not here yet.
Not yet? Okay.
Yeah.
Hang on. Okay. Share screen and then now can you see?
Not yet. If you're having trouble, maybe we should ask one of the operator to
No,
share your
I'm very usual with I'm used to use this. Not
Yeah.
yet appearance in your screen. Not.
No.
No. Okay. Hang on in a minute. Yeah. Be patient. Now go to the share screen, right?
Yeah, and choose the PowerPoint.
Choose and then choose the PowerPoint. Yeah.
And then share. Okay.
Yeah. Hang on in a minute. Can you see now? Can you now?
No, no. I still can't. I mean, it's
How come?
host. Is there any problem
Still not yet.
with the sharing permission?
Yeah, maybe. Do I have permit for sharing my presentation? I'm sure that the committee has it because I send it to them.
Okay, it's been shared by one of the committee member, and perhaps you can give the control to Bu Titi, or just help her to transition
I
to the next
wonder
slide?
because I have, I have practiced this to with my friend. Yeah, okay. Not yet appears in your screen.
It's already appeared, but it's from the committees. The committees shared it, your slides, your presentations.
Okay, actually there is a what correction, bit correction. Now is all right. Yeah, but I cannot control my presentation, right? No, controlled by the committee.
Host, can you give the control to Bu Titi? Host? I think
The host?
The host can actually give you control over the presentation.
Okay.
I think.
Okay, yeah. Okay, everyone, I'm sorry for any technical problems, yeah. But actually, I have practiced my presentation with my friends and as well as with Felice. Yeah, Felice is my student in international undergrad program in international relations department. As I told you before that my presentation title is a new international order in the pandemic era. Okay, next, please. How can we change to the other slide?
Hello, operator. Next slide, please.
Operator, next slide.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Actually, I have modified this slide, but it's all right. That have been noticed that the changes in international governance occurred significantly with the emergence of COVID-19. Yeah, international politics, which are usually colored by conflict and cooperation, suddenly these characteristics disappear and countries become more individualistic. This is what we notice the development of international politics. Yes, at the beginning of when I learned international relation, that the world was dominated by two superpowers. Yes, I'm very interested in Mas Rio Arianto presentation. I will ask question to you, Mas Rio, because the conflict between I mean the competition between the West and the East is the conflict about the ideology, and then you frame the conflict of ideology become more more soft or softer by saying that cooperate in culture. Yeah. So
Yes.
we have to discuss about this because I remember this is all about the competition between communist ideology and capitalist ideology. Yeah, this is there is a development because the COVID-19 has changed a lot of things, especially for international relations. Yes, I mentioned again, although the first presenter is Mbak Asri. Mbak Asri has explained about the virus. Yeah, the virus is a family of virus. Yeah, the virus COVID-19, and as far as I know, is this is a very weak. Actually, the very weak creature actually can be died only if with the soap, for example. Yeah, but this creature is very intelligent. If it lives in a suitable place, it will be very difficult to destroy. That's why, no, not yet. Change the slide, please. Yeah. Going to the previous slide. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. This situation make everyone in the world worries about. Yeah. And because as far as I know, that the virus came from China, everyone blame China, right? And then China has a very good response for this development. Yeah, respond by as if that this country is very kind, is very hospitable. Yeah, something like that. This is my observation about the Chinese foreign policies or policies development. And then, the phenomenon of virus as a health problems, and then continues to develop into an economic, social, yeah, cultural and political problems, yeah, including international politics. This is the new. This is a really new phenomenon, and the whole of my life, I only face this situation that health problem become social, economic, and political problems. Yeah. In the relation between countries in internal relation, the coronavirus has changed the world order, yeah, of international relation behavior actually. Yeah. Countries in the world are no longer divided into Eastern and Western bloc ideologically, or first, second, and third world economically. You know that after the Second World War, as if the world is divided into Eastern and Western bloc vertically and ideologically, and then according and horizontally, or the other way around. Yeah, yes, horizontally or economically, the world is divided into the first, second, and third world based on their economic development. Yeah. And at the moment, during the COVID-19, as if the world is divided into survival and vulnerable countries, based on their adequate healthcare system in facing the pandemic COVID-19. So there is no longer superpower or less power or middle power. Yeah, every country as if they are the same situation, but depend on the way in which they can overcome the pandemic, yeah, to prevent the spread of this pandemic. Yeah. And then the recent outbreak of COVID-19 has drastically changed the nature of international relation. Yeah, and then the emergence of conflict and cooperation was mainly influenced by state and as hypothesized within the framework of realism, liberalism, economist, and behaviorist approaches. Mas Kuncoro, maybe you remember that the very basic approaches in international relation, they are realism, liberalism, economist, and behaviorist. Yeah. Do you still remember, Mas Kuncoro? Yeah. Realism is when someone believes that the world is a full of competition among the countries. That's why every country cannot avoid the struggle of power. Yeah, the peace only can be achieved when we achieve balance of power. While liberalism or idealism is when someone believes that actually every country has their nature to cooperate to each other. Yeah, that's why at the time we successfully established, I mean, the world successfully established United Nations because the people believe that actually every country wants to cooperate to each other. Yeah, and then the world also colored by economics because the relationship between or among the countries only based on economic interest. There are two approaches in economy, capitalist and socialism, capitalism and socialism. And the later news about the approach we hear about Islamism, yeah, Islam economy, yeah. This is new approaches in economy. Yeah, actually it's not new, but everyone elaborate these approaches. And then behaviorist approach, when someone believes that there is a regular event every year or every 20 years or every 30 years. Yeah, that, for example, the war always happen the big war always happen in 30 years. So you can predict, or you can analyze when the war will happen by paying attention of the regular basis. Okay, next. Based on this introduction, so I raise a question. Yeah, I just wonder. This is actually this is still preliminary research, because this is a very new idea, very new idea in among the international relation expert. Not yet emerged the idea of the new approaches in international relation. This is genuine from me, and then Felice giving the other idea. Yeah. The first, the first question is how the COVID-19 pandemic will fundamentally affect the nature of the international system. Because and then I researched this of this question, whether it's right that the pandemic will affect the nature of international system. In my opinion and our opinion, yes, that this pandemic will affect the nature of the international system. And my second question is based on my what I wonder, yeah, I wonder why as the international figures not appear yet during the pandemic COVID-19, because as far as I know, after the first war, we for the international relation students or lecturer, we have understood that after the first World War, we know Winston Churchill, that the world is ordered by the idea of person, yeah, like Winston Churchill when he introduced for Winston Churchill 14 point, yeah, and then
You have
we have to
5 more minutes, Miss.
5 4 minutes, okay, yeah, and then okay, yeah, I wonder whether that no no new figures in international relation, yeah, during the pandemic. And then how do we build a new international relation approaches? This is my third question. And then next, okay, okay, next, hurry up. Yes, yeah. These two opinions, they don't believe that this pandemic will give any impacts on international relation. But my opinion or our opinion, COVID-19 has changed the international order, yeah, indicated by the behavior of relation between countries that no longer colored by conflict and cooperation. So during the pandemic, no conflict but no cooperation, because the intensity of meetings between heads of states dramatically no longer, yeah, no longer meeting among the heads of states due to the appeal of social and physical distancing. You know that the two terms become worldwide, yeah, become worldwide, social and physical distancing, and replacing the international term like sovereignty, the right of self-determination, and then no interfering, freedom or democratization, respect to human rights. Everyone forgot about those terms and replaced by social and physical distancing. This is, I wonder that this happened in my life, yeah. And then next, and actually, uh, we I found, and the very last I will send my proposal or my paper. Yeah, in the last minute I will send my proposal. I found that actually the pandemic has raised several names of women leaders who have successfully managed COVID-19 in preventing the increase in the number of victims and minimizing the impact of other factors, especially economic, social, and cultural. And they are all women. The first is Angela Merkel from Germany, Jacinda Ardern from New Zealand, Sanna Mirella Marin from Finland, Tsai Ing-wen from Taiwan. These women leaders succeeded in preventing the country from being hit by COVID-19 because of their success in propaganda for their people. The New Zealand Prime Minister, for example, said that staying at home saves lives, is obeyed by all New Zealand people so that the COVID-19 cases are zero in this Kiwi country. Yeah. So I wonder women become more popular than men at this time because after the Second World War we only knew about Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Joseph Stalin, Winston Churchill, yeah, or um, George Walker Bush in the unipolar situation, and now we know the role of women in combating the COVID-19. And next, this is maybe my conclusion, Mas Kuncoro. Yes, actually, I compare the situation, the international relation situation, post World War and during the pandemic, COVID-19, and then I think you can read by yourself about this, yeah, because I ran out of the time, and please jump to conclusion. I feel that the other presenter has more time. No, just joking. Yes, that just pay attention of the phrase disease no borders. Yeah. So remember, this is the new phrase disease no border. Yeah. So that everyone, every at the moment doesn't matter they are superpower, middle power, or even less power. They are all the same. They are all facing the same problems. That is, the disease is called COVID-19. This is a very important that I have to put for my last presentation. And then the conclusion, please. Yes, the conclusion, please. Yes. Indeed, that international relation in the pandemic era needs to develop its approach, which conventionally very much relates to the power relation. But I don't know yet how to find the approach, but I just share my voice and my wonder. Yeah, this is so because the next future, that's the international relation must be reliable, capable in preventing such pandemic as the COVID-19 to spread up, as well as protecting her citizens from negative impacts of the pandemic, while assuring the public health, well, safety from any kind of external threat. Yeah? And then the second conclusion that actually we still need international institution such as WHO or World Health Organization or UNICEF, UNESCO, and so on and so forth to promote and coordinate countries to cooperate for overcoming the problems of the pandemics. And then also we have to cooperate to the vaccine discovery, and then economic difficulties, social and educational problems, and preventing us from the COVID-19. We have to cooperate. And it seemed to me that nowadays countries just ignore the cooperation with the other bilaterally, regionally, or even internally. So every country doing by themselves. Yeah. So Mas Rio previously proposed that we have to cooperate. Yeah, but this is cooperation with only with China. But this is the idea that we have to cooperate. And then actually we need less political security and defense organization. This is from the functional theory that we have to promote non-political organization when we are non-politics problems. Yeah, thank you so much for your attention. Please ask some question or just give your view on my proposal or on my presentation. Thank you, Mas Moderator or Mas Kuncoro. Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you again. I apologize and for any technical problems in the beginning of my presentation. Okay, the time is yours, Mas Kuncoro.
You're very welcome to Iti. It's interesting to see that the COVID-19 pandemic bring new normal not only to Indonesia as a country, but also to the international system as well. Our last presenter, the last but not least, is from Universitas Gadjah Mada and from Peradaban University. From Peradaban University is Umi Najika Fikriyati F, and then from Universitas Gadjah Mada is Miss Erin Gayatri and Mr. M. Najib Aska to talk about the role of terrorist wives in countering terrorism. It's interesting to see not just the terrorists, but the terrorist wives and how they act favorably towards countering terrorism. Without further ado, the time is yours to Mr. Najib Aska and Miss Erin Gayatri. Please. Your microphone is still muted. Yeah, okay.
Hello everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Najib Aska. I'm from Department of Sociology Gadjah Mada. I'm also from the Center for Security and Peace Studies.
Your voice is very low, Pak Najib.
Sorry. Yeah, my microphone is not on the proper position. This is okay now?
Now, okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm here actually on behalf of my former student, actually the main presenter of this paper or presentation is actually Ibu Umi Najika, who is actually my former student, but now the lecturer at the Universitas Peradaban. But unfortunately, she could not make it due to some other actually activities. So here is the job of a guru or former guru to actually to do assignment from the former student. So here I'm going to present this paper with another college, namely Erin Gayatri, who actually a graduate from CRCS Gadjah Mada, and she is now with me, joined with me also with Mbak Umi in another research group doing actually just the beginning of the research on the role of women in violent and counter-violent extremism. So please let me share the PowerPoint. Yes, I think this is hopefully. Okay, can you see it?
Yes, it's here.
Okay, thank you. So the presentation is actually entitled Understanding the Role of Jihadist Wife in Countering Terrorism, Narratives from Lamongan, East Java. This is actually still in initial stage of research. So we still in actually in developing, let's say, initial framework for the research, also doing some literature review, and also in some initial stages in collecting the data because of the due to the COVID-19, so we could not actually conduct field research in this period. Okay, the next slide is okay. The structure of this presentation is we'll start with a kind of overview on the topic, on the link and the nexus between women and terrorism. And the second one is actually about the trajectory of women in terrorism and extremist
Sir,
violence extremism.
we cannot see the second slide.
Ah, sorry.
I think you share the file and not the slideshow. You need to share the slideshow so that we can see when it's moving to the next slide. Right now it's showing the presentation.
Oh, I see. Here, it work? It work now, yeah?
Still doesn't show.
Okay. Oh my God. You still see the first slide, yeah?
It's black now.
Black.
Perhaps you should try to reshare to slide
stop
to show the slide. Yeah, to stop the share and then share the slideshow instead of the.
Okay.
Or maybe I can show the PowerPoint because we have some changes in our PowerPoints.
Okay. That's fine as well.
Please, Mbak.
Can you see it?
Not yet, Mbak.
It's still loading. It's okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
It worked now. Yes. The next slide, Mbak Erin.
Okay.
Yes, thank you, Mbak Erin. Okay, the second slide will be about the trajectory of women and terrorism. It's actually also like giving kind of overview about the role of women and terrorism, especially in the case of Indonesia. And the third one is actually about previous studies. We conducted previous studies, including Ibu Najihah actually wrote a dissertation on the role of jihadist wife in Department of Sociology, where I was also the co-supervisor. And then we turn to the local context of Lamongan, which is will be the location of our field research. Yeah, but Umi Najihah actually has conducted some field work for previous research. So we will actually give some initial observation. And then the last one actually about the 3 level of counterterrorism by jihadist wife in Lamongan. Yes, next slide, please. Yes, women and terrorism. There are some actually research has been done by scholar on this topic. And there are some engagement of women and the so-called terrorism or let's say violence extremism kind of, such as in the case of the Batista Army for National Liberation in Latin America. In the case of Chechnya, the Black Widow of Chechen, it also happened. In the case of a Palestinian, also there is let's say a group of Palestinian women joining in the battle, and also the Al-Khansa Brigade from actually the Al-Qaeda stream of jihadists. So women and terrorism is not something new, not something which is so it happened already. And also in the case of Indonesia, actually we have also the cases of Aceh, where actually some women, some widows actually from Aceh also involved in the battle. Yeah, next slide, please. Yes, and this is a trajectory of women and terrorism in Indonesia. Yeah, actually in the terrorism cases in Indonesia began to happen, actually attract attention in 2002 with the Bali bombing one, in 2002. But in the initial stages of terrorism action, actually starting from 2002 until recently, actually only just 2016, where actually women start to follow their husband in doing, let's say, extremism or terrorism. In 2017, the first female who will do suicide bombing, in Jakarta actually, but successfully thwarted by police. It is maybe some of you still remember the cases of Bom Panci. This is actually the story of 2017. And then in 2018, the first female suicide bomber and family suicide bombing in Indonesia. This is actually the cases in Surabaya, which has actually become quite prominent and worldwide media spreading information on this. And also in 2019, actually, the second female suicide bomber along with her child. This is actually in the case of in Sumatra, in North Sumatra, when actually a group of police tried to attack the house of, let's say, terrorists or someone suspected as a terrorist, but then the wife at home actually with child actually bombing themselves. And such similar cases actually also happen in Poso, with some people still running guerrilla in the mountain area of Poso in what it's called usually Gunung Biru, mostly male jihadists, but there are some female, the wife of the leader of jihadists also joined in the guerrilla in Poso. The next one, the next slide, please. Yes, I think this is Mbak Erin, will continue until the end. Please, Mbak Erin.
Okay, thank you so much, Pak Najib. Now let me continue the presentation. Now we turn to the previous studies. As we know that when we discuss or we say about the women and terrorism, we easily find about the study or the research about how women involve or take the role in terrorism. For instance, the study that IPEC conducted in 2017 entitled From Mothers to Bombers, the Evolution of Indonesian Women Extremists. So as Pak Najib said previously, that some women in Indonesia or jihadist wives conducted the suicide bombing even along with her children and her husband. And it also remind me about one of the latest theory about how the terrorist issue changing from the backyard to the dining room. As one of the professor in Win Sunan Kalijaga said that in the past time, the woman...
You have 5 more minutes.
Oh, okay. So fast. And then I can skip this one. And then this is our method. We use life history, deep interview to 3 women in East Java, Lamongan, and we also do the observation. And here we use the pseudonym in order to protect our informant. And then this is the local context of Lamongan. The first is the stigma there, as terrorism centers still exist today. And then Lamongan also well known as the Muhammadiyah. People in Lamongan, many people in Lamongan hold Muhammadiyah ideology before converting into Salafi jihadism. I mean, some of them. And then it has been recognized as the Center for Counterterrorism since 2017 through Yayasan Lingkar Perdamaian or YLP. We know that this institution or this NGO initiated by the former terrorist called Ali Fauzi and his companion. And then the last is women or the jihadist wives play critical role in YLP. And then this is the background, biographies background of the jihadist wives that we interviewed. They are the native of Lamongan. They finished their study in Madrasah Aliyah or middle school. They come from the peasants family with lower income, and they are around 49 to 57 years old. And then this is the main of our, let's say, temporary finding. And the first is women or jihadist wives in Lamongan play the critical roles in individual level. Some of jihadist wives in Lamongan, in the beginning, they support their husband, and others, they against their husband in terrorism. But even the woman who against their husband in terrorism also converted into the peace way or the peace ideology, and they de-radicalize themselves, and they taking the role as the head of family when their husband absents in their home, and they responsible for their livelihood when their husband arrested. And then the second is the family level. The woman initiated, or the jihadist wives initiated taking care of their children to non-Islamic background universities. Even though in some cases we also found that the perpetrator of terrorism also can come from non-Islamic background universities. But in this case, the jihadist wives take their children to non-Islamic background universities and took the community measure, and then with the hope that their children can socialize themselves with other diverse students in the university and can change their perspective about terrorism. And then the last is in the community level. We can say that in Yayasan Lingkar Perdamaian or YLP, this is the first or the pioneer NGO that initiated by the former terrorists, and they also involve women within. And even though we know that the Salafism somehow quite strict about the how to say, they encounter about the woman and men in their ideology, but in Yayasan Lingkar Perdamaian, women and men cooperate together and do their programs such as empowerment.
1 more minute.
Okay, economic empowerment, education, and expand their networking by joining more than one pengajian. Here also we use the term conducting counterflow integrity. This is like a security to strengthen one another in that community, and also to support the jihadist wife, especially who has a struggle with their livelihood. I think that's all. And thank you for the kind attention. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you to Mr. Najib Aska and Ms. Erin Gayatri. Now it's time for us to start our discussion. But before we do that, let's take a picture together. So I would like to call all speakers to turn their camera on. Please turn your cameras on so that we can take pictures together before we start the discussion session. Mr. Adi, are you still here? Ms. Astri? Ms. Astri? Okay. Okay, so on 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. One more. Still on 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you. Now I have some questions here for all of the panelists, but because we don't have a lot of time left, so I will ask you to limit your answer to a maximum of 3 minutes per speaker. Okay, I'm really sorry about this, but we have so very little time left. So the first question is to the first speaker, to Ms. Astri. Why Indonesia's government tend to prioritize economy rather than health, while our other ASEAN counterparts, other countries in ASEAN, tend to prioritize health? Is it a simple case of incompetent government, or is there an underlying value or factor that caused this? The second question is for the second speaker, to Miss Rinda. Okay, Miss Rinda, the question is it's a dilemma really in Indonesia. In one hand, we have government-owned or national news agency, which is feel that there needs to be loyal to the government. But on the other hand, the private news agency are all controlled by politicians and their political parties. So in your opinion, in your expert opinion, is there a model that ensure that the press can really serve the civil society, not the government and not the private sectors? I mean, in this case, of course, politicians. So is there a model? Okay, the third question is to Mr. Adi. This one is from Mr. Mutia with some modifications. How true are the people and the government of China or Tiongkok to the value of Taoism, considering that they have undergone through several cultural change, including Mao's very, very violent cultural revolutions and Deng Xiaoping liberalizations? Do they still actually follow or adhere to the values of Taoism? And is there any conflict between the values of Indonesia and China? You know, there are always two sides to things. So you talk about the cooperation, but is there any conflicting values between Indonesia and China? The fourth question is for Bu Siti Mutia. How do you classify? You said that there are only countries who are excel at healthcare and countries who are not excel at healthcare. How do you classify America? Because America, the United States of America, is traditionally classified as a great power, but in the case of COVID-19, they're actually very lackluster in the handling of the COVID outbreak. They're very incompetent. So how do you see this as a international phenomenon? The last questions to Mr. Najib and Ms. Erin. So the concept of jihad is very male-centric. So do you think that if we promote the role of women in the domestic, I mean in the household, do you think this is a very, very effective way of preventing further generation from being radicalized, considering that the very concept of jihadism itself is very, very male-centric? What are your expert opinions on this? So that's all the questions. We start from the first speaker, Ms. Astri. You have a maximum of 3 minutes to answer the question. We cannot hear you, Ms. Astri. No, we cannot hear your.
Okay,
yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Thank you for this question. It's very good question to know about how the government priority on economic priority than the health priority in the first time COVID-19 outbreak in Indonesia. First, we know that the condition of Indonesia society is still we can say that the society is not aware about the dangers of the COVID-19, and we know that the condition of our still is not reached anymore, and we know that when the COVID-19 outbreak first time in Indonesia, the government make a policies about the social distancing and about the work from home. It's absolutely get impact on the economic aspect about the so many people is losing her job and losing her economic activities. So that why the government on the first time try to focus on priority on the economic impact there rather than the health impact. But after that, we know that after the economic impact, we know that the government trying to make a policies like subsidy to our community, our community, or our citizen, and after that, the government trying to the increase their policy to the healthy sector. Uh, Government to make a special hospital like in Wisma Atlet, like I said before. And after that, government to do cooperation to make collaboration or maybe cooperation with the other, like in China. We know that our Ministry of Defense coordinating with the Ministry of China, or we can call it a defense diplomacy with China to get the rapid test kit, and we can get medicine for the dealing with the COVID-19 outbreak in Indonesia. I think that's my
Okay, thank you.
answer.
Yeah,
Yes,
I'm
thank
sorry
you
that
very
I
much.
have to cut you so that I can give time for this, the other speaker. So the second
Thank you very
speaker,
much.
please, Ms. Rinda. It's time for you to answer the question.
Thank you. This is the interesting question, but actually there's a huge gap between the ideal concept of journalism with the practice of the journalism. The reality is different, very different, because we're talking about in the concept, ideal concept, journalism is part of fourth estate beside legislative, executive, and judicative. The fourth estate is press. Why? Because press has a position as watchdog for the three elements above. But the situation we talk about the social political for the media, Vincent Mosco has stated about that media has their own politic and economical interest. It's not about the state-owned media institution that has stated like a national news agency that should be independent. Actually, the private-owned mass media also have to be independent. But the reality, it's all about money. It's all about how to make money through a lot of acrobatic strategy, such as play in the political movement for media owner. We know like Surya Paloh, we know Haritanu Sudibyo, and we know some of the media owner also have to take part in politics just to maintain their need and to maintain their more penetration business in the media in Indonesia. So it's about the gap. I think it's about the gap.
Yeah, I'm sorry I have to cut you, but
yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm really sorry. Okay, next to Ibu Siti Mutia sorry, Mr. Adi, to answer the questions about China. Can you be very, very brief, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Moderator, Ms. Tutomo. And first of all, I want to convey my gratitude to Dr. Siti Mutia Setiawati. It's a very brilliant question to me about my idea. Actually, when we talk about what will we support, conflict or cooperation, and according to my presentation before that, and in the last post-World War, we know that the conflict of the international is became reduced because the era is came to the globalization, and which the identity of every nation is came and became united. But the ideology of globalization is not support from the East. This from the West. So uh, as you mentioned at your presentation, that's you explain more about the some theory from international relational realists, liberalists, constructivists, and other. But all of this theory and paradigm is came from the West, and they are also emphasizing about the international system that's vote is anarchic. So how is we understand that the cooperation between the state from the ASEAN, if they want to get cooperation, how they was to build about this? and how is the cooperation is came. And then I flashback from the Morgenthau state that's in building the cooperation, the
Can you
state
be
could
more
make
direct,
them
please? Yeah.
about the yes in a three level, that is political, security, and economic. But Joseph Nye came to the theory of the soft power, and of course they are going to combine. But today I propose the theory of Manungalism, which is the Indonesia and China has the same cultures, and these cultures became a basic foundation for two countries to building a new cooperation in 21st century. And I call this as the era of Manunggal. So what happened if the Indonesia and China still has contemporary conflict? It is okay, I think. But in the future, this culture and then foundation is came as the key factors to the correlation of culture for the futures. So I think like that.
Thank you, Mr. Adi. Next to Ibu Siti Mutia and Tim to answer the question about America's experience in handling COVID.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Mas Kunchoro. Yeah, thank you for the question. This is my answer that America at the moment is categorized as a vulnerable country. Yeah, no longer superpower. On the policy in combating COVID-19, since the victim of the COVID-19 in the US is, according to the last news, is more than 150,000 among the more or less 300 million people. Yeah, this is a lot. And then America is also categorized as an ignorance country for not complying the international health order. Yeah, this is too kind, according to me, at least. Yeah. But if you look at the development of technology, when I went to the US, yes, I admire that this country is very developed. Yeah, not only developed country, is very, very developed country. Yeah, yes, I admire this country very much because this country introduced maybe the majority of technology come from this country. So it's still categorized as a superpower based on the development of technology, its technology, and then the weapon that the US has, and then the large population and the economic capability. This is my answer. And may I ask Mas Rio just half minute, please, Mas Kunchoro? Yes,
Okay,
Mas
please
Rio,
make it
I
short,
think.
okay?
Okay, very
Yes.
short. That I remember your Manungalism is when I was student in the high school, that my teacher told me that the Manungalism is the idea of President Sukarno. So this is a part of the principle of Indonesian Party, Communist Party. Is it right? Just answer it. Yes.
I think that's Sukarno not directly say about the term of Manungalism, but he said that's about the value of Pancasila. That's, if we conclude that, is gotong royong. But you know, in international studies, there are so many theory and paradigms came from the West. So today I'm from Indonesia, especially from Asia, in the years to promote this theory to become one of the international relation paradigm to understand how is the Indonesian and all of the Asian countries, especially from this country, to build the futures, not only based of the West theory about the anarchy, but we should build about the future by value of Kemanunggalan Dunia, same gotong royong.
I think
like that.
I think we can continue the discussion in a different platform, but I think now
it's
it's
very
the time
interesting.
for...
We'll continue at IHE maybe.
I understand it's very interesting. I'm also very interested. Yeah. Unfortunately, we don't have the time. Last but not least, to the fifth speakers, to Ms. Engarati and Mr. Najib to answer the question. Please.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Moderator. I will try to respond first. Maybe Mbak Irin will add later. Regarding the issue of the male-centric, let's say, jihadism, yeah. I mean, the male-centric tendency among jihadism, that's true. That's because of most of the doctrine or ideology of jihadism is actually directed to male, but actually based on our research, which is actually going to be presented in the next session, we have another 2 presentation actually in that session. We're going to explain about this, about the important role of women in counter-violent extremism, especially in the stages of reproduction of jihadism, in the stage of reproduction of the new generation of jihadists. Because the new generation of jihadists, especially the role of women, is very, very important on that. So, and if any of you actually want to know more about that issue, actually, we are going to in the next session. Actually, I actually also have short comment and question actually to Mbak Rinda Sirait presentation, because I was a journalist before turning academic, but I think there's no time in this session, so I will give the time to Mbak Erin maybe to add some more explanation, respond to that issue. Please, Mbak Erin.
Okay, thank you, Pak Najib and Pak Kunchoro. Just very quick. In my thesis also, I researched about the role of women, even specifically about the agency of women in terrorism in Poso and some of women in the prison. And I want to say that, yes, I agree that this is like a male centrist, but now when women have more space in terrorism, they also rises about the notion of emancipation and agency. Even they barely talking about how the women rights in Indonesia, especially the Muslim women right in Indonesia, that they fight for in terrorism. So I think it will be changed, or it will be more balanced between the male centrist and female centrist in the future when we're talking about the terrorism issue. Thank you.
Thank you for all the speakers for the very insightful remarks and a very, very critical answer to all of the questions. I would like to end this meeting by saying I'm very, very enlightened today, and I hope that we have the chance to talk about this issue about later date. Perhaps I will invite some of you to my university to talk. But for today, that's all the time we have. I would like to say thank you and good evening.
What's university, Mas Kunchoro?
UPN Jogja, Bu.
Oh, UPN.
Yeah.
Oke, ya.
Oke.
Oke, terima kasih Mas Kunchoro, Pak